Wales then out of the Rugby World Cup. Let's head straight over to Marseille, where our reporter James Cole is waiting to speak to us. James, can you put into words the huge disappointment this is for Warren Gatland and his men?
Oh yeah, they'll be hugely disappointed. It was a valiant effort from Wales, but the very fine margins just didn't go their way tonight. They raced into a 10-point lead here and they were looking very good, but they'd made some handling errors. There was some ill-discipline. It allowed Argentina to come back into the game at 10-6 at half-time, then take a lead at 12-10 early into the second half. And Wales, at the crucial moments, let it slip. There was actually a controversial moment towards the end of the game where there was a shoulder-to-the-head collision, a tackle on, what was a ruck actually, on Nick Tompkins, the Wales centre. And it's been a bit of an issue throughout this World Cup, a big issue before the World Cup. We saw a shoulder into Nick Tompkins' head. It was deemed not a yellow card or a red card by referee Carl Dixon. I'm sure Warren Gatland will have a few words to say about that. Referee Dixon feeling that Tompkins was dropping, therefore there's mitigation. And that was at a crucial point in the game. Tompkins then had to go off with an HIA. But I think, without making excuses, I think Wales will admit they were the creators of their own downfall at times today. The line-out didn't work. There were too many penalties, too many handling errors. They weren't clinical enough when they got into Argentina's final third. But yeah, dreadfully disappointing, because had they got through this, Warren Gatland would have been taking Wales to a third World Cup semi-final, and they'd be in Paris with that chance to take on Ireland or New Zealand, as you mentioned, a match later on, which is one of the games of the tournament so far. But just to put some context on it, I think Wales have still overachieved at this World Cup. A lot of people felt they wouldn't get out of their group. They did that comfortably. They sent Australia home. But ultimately, just a bridge too far. They've made progress since Warren Gatland returned. Remember, he returned to the WRU just after that sexism, misogyny and racism scandal. Then the players were threatened to go on strike ahead of the England game. They finished second bottom in the Six Nations. So the curve is upward for Wales. There's a lot of players who have just played in their last World Cup. Dan Biggar, George North, Liam Williams, Lee Halfpenny. They will not be continuing for Wales at another World Cup. So heartache in that sense. But they've got a really good crop of young players led by their captain, Jack Morgan. The future looks a lot brighter for Wales than it did a few months ago. To put a positive on what would be a really, really really painful disappointment and defeat for Wales right now.
It seemed Argentina finished the stronger of the two nations in this one. Was there a suggestion that Wales were tiring towards the end?
It looked like it, didn't it? They're carrying a few knocks. Dan Biggar looked like he was carrying a knock. Crucial players. Don't forget they lost to Lupe Faletau Wales to a broken arm going into this game. Liam Williams, their fullback, was carrying a knee injury. He went off midway through. It just felt like a bridge too far for those guys. Crucial players, but ageing players too. And Argentina, I don't know where they've come from this World Cup. Remember, against England, they were really, really poor, and then they've just started to get a bit better. Yesterday, Neil Jenkins, the Wales coach, said he expected Argentina to kick the ball lots. We all did. Instead, they just ran the ball. Ran and ran and ran. And yeah, they ran the legs off Wales, at times ran the legs off themselves, but they held out, and then the intercept try at the end. The scoreline flatters them, but they played brilliantly, Argentina, take nothing away from them. Nicolas Sanchez getting that intercept try at the end, and they'll be hard to beat. Everyone wrote them off after they lost to England, but this is a World Cup, and it's very different to any other rugby. You get out your pool, and then it becomes a knockout phase, and we've seen many times before at World Cups, average teams not hitting their straps, like England, get to the semi-final and do special things.
Oh, well, fingers crossed for that tomorrow. But what next for Wales and Warren Gatland? As you say, some players are looking to end their international careers. But from where they were after the Six Nations to now, they've made, as you said, huge strides.
They have. He's created a real siege mentality. He's made them a team that's hard to beat. That's always what Warren Gatland does. He's created real atmosphere. He says he loves World Cups because he's able to have the players for longer than any other time in the 4-year cycle. Yes, but Dan Biggar will be retiring. George North won't play in another World Cup. Liam Williams, as I said, they're going to lose some really big, experienced players. Lupe Faletau, you hope, hasn't played his last game in a Wales jersey. But they've got some really good young guys coming through. Jack Morgan, Tommy Raphael in the back row. Aaron Wainwright at number 8. Up front as well, Dewi Lake, the co-captain. So there's a lot of silver lining to this cloud, put it that way.
OK, James, thanks ever so much. And of course, there's another quarter-final still to come as world number 1 ranked Ireland aim to reach the last 4 for the first time when they take on New Zealand in a highly anticipated clash in Paris. James Savundra is at the Stade de France.
Yes, tens of thousands of Irish fans are starting to make their way to the Stade de France to see if Andy Farrell's side can make history and reach the Rugby World Cup semi-finals for the first time. Delighted to say I've been joined by former Ireland international Alan Quinlan. Alan, it doesn't get much bigger than this, does it?
It doesn't, James. My hands are shaking. I'm nervous. All the Irish people are a bit nervous, but quite optimistic. It's a strange situation that people are talking about Ireland being favourites against New Zealand. Our recent results have been really positive against them, but we've some bad memories as well, so you can't discount the fact that they're an incredibly dangerous side. They know how to win big knockout games. Unfortunately, we've never been beyond the quarter-final, so there's some mind games at play, and Ireland have got to deal with that. I think they've got to try and find their potential today. If they do that, I think most people coming into the stadium, travelling over here, are confident that Ireland can get a positive result.
Spoke about mind games there, the fact Ireland have never been past this stage of Rugby World Cup. Do you think that's something that these players are thinking about?
Not thinking about it now, I don't think. I think they would have addressed it in their build-up, in the preparations, in the summer build-up to this tournament. They definitely would have spoken about it. You can't ignore the fact, but I think, Andy Farrell and his side have not shied away from any sort of challenges they've had. I think they're a pretty grounded group who've played brilliant rugby, and they've got a lot of respect from people all over the world. So they've held that number 1 tag pretty well, but it counts for nothing today if they then can't find a performance today. Ian Foster said during the week, history, it doesn't matter about history, it's all about the next game and today, and that's what Ireland have got to focus on. Of course, people outside the group can talk about it, but I think they're pretty relaxed and know that they're in for a serious challenge. It's hard to separate these sides, but mentally they're in a good place.
Do you think Ireland's recent history helps them and gives them confidence, considering the fact it took so long to record that first win against the All Blacks, but they've now won 5 out of their last 8?
I think it's very relevant because, I was in New Zealand for a number of tours, played against them a good few times, and there's a lot of good Irish players that played in my generation that never beat New Zealand. Brian O'Driscoll, Paul O'Connell, Ronan O'Gara, these guys, many times they played against the All Blacks and never won. So when they got that first win in Chicago, it starts a little bit of has had a snowball effect where they believe more, and it's not that the aura is gone, but the Irish team believe that if they get to this level, they can compete, and they've done that brilliantly in the last few years. There's a certain Joe Schmidt in with the All Blacks, and he was central to helping this team get to where they're at, and building some great foundations. But Andy Farrell has continued that on, so I think it is important, yes.
And finally, what challenge will the All Blacks give Ireland today? They've had a mixed results really the last 18 months or so, but they did show some form towards the end of the pool stage.
They showed some form in the Rugby Championship as well, particularly that first Rugby Championship game against South Africa in New Zealand. The first 20-25 minutes of that game was scintillating. Power, pace, great execution, line breaks, all that kind of stuff. So everybody knows they're capable of that. I think they've been inconsistent, there's no doubt about that in the last few years. You meet any Kiwis outside here, they're nervous, and it's not normally like that. They're normally pretty buoyant that their team is going to win. So Ireland have improved a lot for sure, but still, you give time and space to this New Zealand side and they can hurt you and they can rack up a lot of points. So Ireland have got to stay very focused and watch the threats of their backline in particular.
Well, thanks to Alan Quinlan for joining us on Sky Sports News. It does not get much bigger than this, does it? The world number 1 ranked side against a team who've won this tournament 3 times, more than anybody else. Ireland taking on the All Blacks. Kick off at 8 p.m. this evening.